Hey there! Welcome to SkyGems Academy podcast. At SkyGems Academy, our vision is to build a community of new generation leaders with strong core values, high level of self-awareness, high self-worth, and passionate individuals who will give back to the community and the environment. We are focused on delivering high-quality blended online learning of 21st century life skills delivered and taught online, practiced and perfected offline. Our philosophy is to inspire, educate, and nurture. We work towards inspiring and igniting sparks. We listen, we coach, we fine-tune and accelerate the mastery of 21st century life skills for various age groups. Our blended learning programs are curated from the early years to above 60 years old, as we believe in providing high-quality, lifelong learning for everyone. SkyGems Academy Podcast Series 1: How COVID-19 Transformed the Education Industry. We will take you inside the minds and behind the scenes of 40 exclusive leaders and educators in the education industry. We've interviewed 40 exclusive educators and leaders in the education industry worldwide, starting with China, where the pandemic initially started. You will hear from the leaders in the education industry sharing candidly their views on the possible changes that will take place in the education industry post-COVID-19. Be sure to tune in to SkyGems Academy Podcast Series 1 to listen and learn from the amazing stories, experiences shared, challenges faced, and techniques used by educators in different cities and countries to adapt and overcome their challenges personally as well as professionally in their respective roles in the education industry during the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, let's dive into SkyGems Academy Podcast Series 1. Introducing to you our host, Alyssa.
Hey guys, it's Alyssa. Hope everyone is keeping well. SkyGems Academy Podcast is a passion project that my team and I kicked off in early 2020. As we are all facing the unprecedented events and experiences impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, we find that there is an urgent need to unite the global community of educators and leaders to progress forward together. Our main objective is to create a platform for all global leaders and global communities to come together to document these historic moments for our future generations. SkyGems Academy Podcast is a platform for everyone from all around the world to share, listen, learn, communicate, collaborate, and come together to network and help one another to pull through this very challenging period that has impacted the global community. In each episode of SkyGems Academy Podcast Series 1, How COVID-19 Transformed the Education Industry, you will find yourself immersed and engaged in in-depth discussions and thought leadership in various aspects of education, technology, humanity, diversity, disparity, and collaborations in the education space. Our distinguished speakers also shared interesting stories, techniques, information and experiences with regards to COVID-19 pandemic and its impact to each speaker and to the education industry. We trust that you will find great value, insights and learnings from our 40 exclusive speakers in each episode of SkyGems Academy Podcast Series 1. We are very grateful and sincerely appreciate each and every one of you who has motivated us, encouraged us, contributed in your own very special ways, especially our 40 exclusive guest speakers from all around the world. A big thank you to all and a big shout out to all of you. I am pleased to introduce you to our charismatic and distinguished guest speaker for SkyGems Academy Podcast Series 1, Episode 9, JS Goyette. Here's some key highlights of JS's amazing track records. JS Goyette is the international principal at Jinhua International School, a recently founded K-12 Chinese and Western curriculum school in Jinhua City, China. He has 2 decades of experience in teaching and management in K-12 and young adult programs, as well as in the educational software field. JS believes in the role of schools to not only guide students in their intellectual and physical development, but also prepare them for an increasingly important global future. Local and international teachers must work together to both support and challenge students. JS also loves learning languages. He is currently preparing to take the HSK Mandarin Chinese test later this year. Well done, JS. Congratulations. I quote and unquote JS Goyette. Nobody could have predicted that this would hit so hard. However, we can teach them the right mindset to quickly react and to ask the right questions. And this is something we need our kids to do more in the future. Now, let's tune in to SkyGems Academy Podcast Episode 9 for JS Goyette's podcast. Let's jump straight to it. We are very honored today and very happy to have a very special guest that is based in Jinhua, China, and his name is Mr. JS Goyette. I'm going to hand over to JS to introduce himself to all of you. JS, so happy to have you on the call. A very warm welcome to you.
Thank you very much. So my name is JS Goyette. I'm from Canada, and I first came to Greater China about 20 years ago. And I've lived in several places such as Taipei, Shanghai, and now in Jinhua. Came back to Jinhua about 2 years ago to help build a new school here. We follow a Chinese as well as a British curriculum, and it's been a really interesting experience. During the coronavirus pandemic, it was vacation time, and I went back to Taiwan in order to just spend vacation time there. And we were supposed to be there for only a few weeks, but because all the flights were canceled, I ended up spending a month and a half there. At one point, we're lucky enough to be able to come back here, and we did our quarantine period. And afterwards, although we could travel around, we still could not open the schools. At our school, a little bit over a month ago, we were able to open again. And now we're lucky enough to have all of our students back. And besides some basic safety measures, such as taking our temperature 3 times a day, I would say that life has returned to normal.
Very happy to have you on the call today, JS, for you to share all that. We are here to share about the pandemic that we are all facing during these unprecedented times. All of us are also learning as we go, and different countries at the different pace. China clearly ahead of a lot of countries. I'm here in Singapore. We are still trying to cope and manage the situation. So it's really nice to have different educators across the globe sharing their experiences. And today, JS, from you specifically, we'd like to hear from you. How do you feel about the current COVID-19 pandemic situation that you are in?
Well, I have to look at the present and really be, in my case, we're grateful that the situation where I am right now in Jinhua has improved a lot. We still feel that the pandemic, like the government and the schools are taking measures to prevent it from appearing again, such as, for example, masks, health safety, QR codes, and also some limitations on travel. But overall, at this point, I feel that where we are right now, we've had to do many things and had to sacrifice, but there have been many benefits to that. Everybody here just wants to make sure that everybody remains safe and that we're able to just continue improving.
That is so critical. I think the word that you mentioned is really so relevant. We continue to improve. I think it's a continuous journey right here that we're all facing.
Yes, really education, a lot of things that we didn't think about before. For example, here, washing our hands was always a big part of the school culture. And wearing masks in Jinhua, if ever we're not feeling well, that was perfectly acceptable in society. But it has really, with younger children, but also with foreign teachers who are not familiar with this culture, this has really helped us understand the purpose of those things and also the importance of following the rules and just making sure that everybody contributes to maintaining where we are right now.
Yeah, certainly. I think all of us play a part. Whatever we do really has some impact to the community at large. So yeah, really be mindful and be understanding to help everyone around us. Totally true. Thank you for that. What are the challenges that you have faced so far during this period that you are in?
Well, for myself, my family, but also the school in general, I think the biggest challenge was, once more, safety and health. The thing that we've taken for granted, that everything would be okay. And we realized, no, we need to take a more active role. We need to take steps. We need to make sure that we're aware of what we're doing. This has really changed the way we behave every day, the way we travel, but also just the way we run our school. For the school itself, also, I mean, the biggest challenge with education was the fact that students could not go to school for several months. And very quickly, we had to adapt our method of teaching. We had to go online 100%. And of course, there were many challenges such as technology. A lot of people, students and teachers, were on vacation. So we've had some people, give and take classes from hotel rooms or from their friends' houses, and that was a bit challenging. But also, it was changing how we taught. Before, everything we had prepared was to be taught inside the classroom and with this very specific method and specific goals, and also the way we would help students develop, identify their strengths, weaknesses, and really just do a good job of teaching. And that changed overnight, where suddenly we had to, instead of interacting with students in the classroom, all of our teachers had to stare at little squares on a screen. It was totally different. That's something that I would say very quickly, though, every teacher adapted and learned to teach in different ways. We had to do different kinds of training. Teachers had to break down what their goals were and how they could reach those goals. And also, we had to accept that there are some things that we couldn't do and that we would have to catch up on a little bit later. Personally, I'm responsible for recruiting teachers for the school. And I would say that that's been one of the biggest challenges that the pandemic brought. Imagine recruiting people to come to a place that in the news is considered to be the ground zero or the center. Now, the situation has changed now. But in January, people would tell me, no, I don't want to go to China because people are, I don't want to get sick. And that was the information that was given. Now, it's very, very interesting to see from January to, let's say, March, when the attitude changed completely. It was the opposite, where people would contact me in order to come to China because they thought it was the safest place to be. I thought it was very interesting how quickly people would change. And I think it's just the fact that people, they stopped listening to the news and they started educating themselves, started doing their own research and really looking at, what China was doing, and also Jinhua more specifically, because I can speak with more confidence about the local region here. Just that by asking better questions, people were able to get a better idea of what was happening in China and what was happening here. So those have been, I would say, the biggest challenges. Another final challenge, I think, is just mobility. This is something for many schools, but mine has also been hit by that, is that right now the border in China is closed. So we have people who, they're still not able to come back to China. And these are people that they want to come back. They miss the school, they want to come back, they miss their life here. So they've been in exile for several months. And that is something that really has changed the dynamic of the school. And also that's changed, the way we have to deal with class allocation, with, teaching content, with substitution. It really has changed the whole school.
How do you cope with that dynamics that's just changed so suddenly with teachers that are still unable to come back to China, even though they want to, but the borders are closed? And now with school coming back to life, how do you manage that? It's a challenge, I assume. Yeah.
It is a big challenge. We've had some teachers that, although we keep them informed, especially for teachers who have an active role in things like, for example, curriculum development, we do everything we can to keep them involved. But now we have some extra challenges, for example, a time difference. So where we could easily before at 2 o'clock in the afternoon have a curriculum development meeting and all chat, now suddenly we have to think, well, this person is in this time zone, so we have to adapt that. This person also, they're getting WeChat updates or getting some documents. It does not have the same impact as interacting with people.
Yes.
So we've experienced where everybody was, for example, communicating on Zoom and WeChat.
Yeah.
And that was, in a way, more tolerable because everybody was at a disadvantage. But now, if we have some people here and some people outside, it's like not being part of the story, not being part of the joke, if you know what I mean. Like you don't really follow everything.
Yeah.
And it's more and more difficult to follow what's happening with the school.
That is a major challenge, yeah. And how do you overcome that? I know that it's quite recent.
Yes.
I'm sure there will be a way that you find resourcefully to manage and come across these challenges. Yeah.
Well, technology has been the main source. We have like the hybrid approach, for example. Our meetings have been changed to technology. We have started using some online resources, for example, for business project management software. That is something that we didn't really need before because we could communicate easily. But now we need to keep better track of who is doing what. And so using this kind of technology from the business world and implementing it in a school has helped a lot. We're still working out the kinks, but this is something that I think that even when we find ourselves in a situation where we don't have to think about distance, we don't have to think about quarantine or any of that, I think this will become part of our new culture, in part because it works. I really think that this is something that makes the school better, but also because our school is growing, projects are growing, and it's been a chance for us to test out new things. And by doing this, we're able to, I would say, equalize the access to information.
Information is power, isn't it, at this point in time? And
Absolutely.
The ease of accessing to it. And I think the platform that you use will be so critical to have everyone on the same page. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. I think that's a really great way to impart your experience to the listeners, and we can all learn from the experience that you just gone through. Thank you, JS. I would like to also ask, from your perspective, how do you think COVID-19 has changed the education industry, and what are your views in terms of the changes that will take place post-COVID-19?
I think that it has forced us to take a look at the way things were being done. If you go with a school that was 100% following a traditional education method, and that had to be stopped. So that forced those schools, whether the system was successful or not, to just sit down and say, okay, so this is what we've been doing. Now we have to change it. What can we do? And this is an opportunity also to improve what we're doing. This has also, I would say, accelerated for example, online education. I'll give you an example. I started learning as a student online for different programs about 10 years ago.
Wow.
And 10 years ago, online education was seen as an alternative, was seen as really for people who were at distance locations, which was my case. And people were asking me, are you sure you want to do that? Don't you want to find an alternative? It was seen as being of lower quality. And to be honest, I did do a lot of research before taking it on any program because it was an investment in time and money. So I wanted to be sure.
Yes.
And gradually, this has improved. And I've seen that people have become more accepting of online education, more accepting of hybrid methods. But I didn't see a very high demand for that. Now, what I've seen in the last 6 months, both personal experiences, both in terms of also teachers looking for employment, but also for parents, the conversations I've had with parents, is that we've moved on from online education being a nice supplement or an alternative for people who were in the remote locations to something that is actively demanded. People want to know, what is your online approach? What tools are you using? Will the curriculum be done with online? And that is something that once more people had to ask questions they didn't have to ask before. They had to educate themselves. They had to face the challenge of having their children at home and keeping their children busy, but not just wanting to give them whatever activity. They had to ask themselves, what can I do to better help them? And I think that this need for parents to find resources for their children, I think that has transferred to rethinking about the schools themselves, the quality requirements, and also for going outside the box of traditional education, such as with online education.
Just really fascinating to hear how the dynamics has changed over time. Actually, as you say correctly, online education has been around for some period of time, and yourself have experience.
Yes.
However, only most recently things has pushed to a very accelerated mode where everyone is talking about what are your plans for online education? Or parents themselves are looking out for those tools or education that their child could take up or could recommend to the schools to take up, I assume.
Absolutely. And I'm hoping as for school, for example, that the mindset of parents has changed as well. For example, if you look at something as simple as learning apps for reading or for pronunciation or anything like, let's say, language related, before parents would be a bit more hesitant to invest because they would think all apps are the same. But now that the parents have worked, to do their own research, they've asked a lot of questions to teachers, to principals, and they've had also the chance to see their children in their house. They're in the same room. They can see the children work with those apps or their programs or their websites or any other resource. I'm hoping that now parents have a better understanding that not all apps are created equal and that, you get what you pay for. And we have to really think about investing in online education. Then the quality is very, very important. So that is something that we cannot take for granted. And that is something that schools, parents, and everybody needs to really consider to make a wise investment.
That is true. I think quality says it all. Yeah, it is important to choose the right tool with the highest quality of service that will benefit the students or the learners. So really very relevant and very real. Thank you, JS, for sharing that. Really appreciate that. JS, in terms of, I know things are getting back to normal in Tsinghua, where you're located, and also in China.
Yes.
We were wondering what would your new normal be or already is a new normal for you right now? Would you be able to share?
Sure. Well, for the school itself, I would say that we're continuing with the routine for this year. And I think that we needed this. We needed the students. And when I say we, I will speak a lot, I mean, just teachers. And that's something that a lot of teachers were so happy to come back because it brought, stability and purpose. Students were happy to come back. Parents, I think, were overjoyed to have the children go back. But it was just like to bring stability. Yeah. But now that we're in a situation and we've passed the rush of having the students back, and that we're thinking of how things have changed. We're seeing the new trends on the market. We're seeing new schools. And we're seeing so many things. It's like saying that the standard of before of being like, we want to be like this school or we want to reach this, this level of quality, I think has changed a lot. I think that the new normal is that there's no normal anymore for the near future. We've seen with online education that some students responded much better to online education because they could control their schedule, for example, and they would be able to use technology more, and they responded very well. So this is something that we definitely have to include in terms of differentiation, but also in giving opportunities for students to, just develop different kinds of skills. The programs themselves, I think now we have to fragment them a little bit more. And just in acknowledgement that there's no such thing as just as one final goal in completing a program. Of course, we still have degrees, we still have certifications, we still have grades, and that's very important. But we really have to pay more attention to the different ways that we can help students do that. Technology, which we had a chance to explore a lot more in the last 6 months, is one way of doing that, being able to create more personalized approaches for students, and also to be able to just give access to more additional resources. Wonderful thing, let's go, for example, with Zoom, which we're using right now. I knew of Zoom because I had completed a program about a year before the pandemic hit. And I had been pushing for Zoom to be used in the school because I loved it. We could record, we could do so many things with it. And it seemed that nobody at my school knew about Zoom. When that hit, I don't know what happened, but everybody was talking about Zoom. So, okay, great. I want to use this software. A lot of people became more familiar with other software that had been around for a long time. And that now that teachers have tried something during the pandemic, and many of them were not happy with it. I mean, I'm very happy with Zoom, but I'm sure some people were not happy with it. And they searched. So now when we talk about establishing a procedure, a system for the whole school, or at least for a specific department, what we learn is that we can have 1, 2, 3 different approaches that will satisfy the goals of the program, the teachers and the students, and that for reaching that goal for the level, for the subject, will be successful. So we cannot just limit ourselves to this kind of LMS or this kind of approach. We really have to look into more specific materials, resources, and also even goals for different students.
So more of a very targeted approach and also giving options.
Absolutely. Hopefully, students, especially those who feel that they might not be able to learn in the same way, and their parents as well, now that we've had a chance to try different things, and now that they're more knowledgeable about what's out there, and that teachers, schools, and parents are more open to exploring different options, then definitely following a more targeted approach for different students. That is something that can not only help the students more, but it's more easily doable now because of the different methods, technology, but also different learning paths that we're able to create for our students.
And also, I believe the mindset of learners and also parents and educators have also shifted in a very agile manner, that the adaptability is so high, the understanding and also the action to follow is really at a very dedicated level to make things happen in order to have everyone on the same page and also making sure everyone's requirements are taken care of. It is just amazing how things have shifted.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
This is a really great way of demonstrating how things can change in a short period of time if all of us are moving on the same direction and wanting to make it happen together. Is amazing.
Yes.
Thank you, JS, for sharing. And I believe now it's really critical that we ask you this question that all of us would like to hear. What would your message or messages be for the future generations to come?
I would say what's important is to not take anything for granted.
Mm-hmm.
This showed us that within a few weeks, everything can change. And the teachers, parents, students, and then we're just talking about education here, but also, we haven't talked about the support staff. We haven't talked about the construction work that was taking place in the school. We haven't talked about how big just one area of the market, of the economy, how everything has changed with that. And that we had to immediately find new solutions. And we had to be able to think of ways to quickly move on. That's a key point we talked about before, is that the society has to continue. We need to continue with education. We need to continue with the economy. We need to continue with all of that. So the students and the future generations, they need to anticipate that eventually something might happen like this. Now, I hope that this never happens again. But might be the economy, might be weather related, it doesn't matter. And they should always have the mindset that just because something works right now and just because it's the right solution, it doesn't mean that it will be the right solution forever. And they cannot be complacent. They need to always look for a new way to do something. They need to be hungry. They need to be just a little bit uncomfortable, that they're always thinking, could I do better? Could I do something different? And I think that this will not only help their generation, future generations, have better quality of life, but also will just prepare them to react to and to be able to fix these kinds of problems in the future, because they knew that something could happen. And they had contingency plans. They had, more importantly, I think the most important thing is the mindset.
Yes.
To be adaptable. And that is crucial. We cannot know what's going to happen in the future. Nobody could have predicted that this would hit so hard. However, we can teach them the right mindset to quickly react and to ask the right questions. And that is something that we need our kids to do more in the future.
Wow, thank you, JS, for sharing that message. That is really powerful. And to me, it is so important to really follow through and don't take things for granted, as you say correctly, and be hungry and have a growth mindset. Only with that, we are able to manage as things come along our way, whether it's good things or bad things, or a pandemic like this, in a very positive manner. Thank you, JS, for sharing all that experience and thoughts and viewpoints, and also inspire us all to do better in the future. Thank you, JS. Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
Great pleasure, great honor to have you on SkyGems podcast. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode at SkyGems Academy Podcast Series 1 on the topic of how COVID-19 transformed the education industry. We trust that the podcast episode has provided a whole lot of value and insights to everyone who tuned in. If you enjoyed today's episode and you love the vision and mission of SkyGems Academy, can you please help us to convince others to tune in to SkyGems Academy podcast too? Please kindly subscribe to SkyGems Academy podcast. Please also kindly leave a quick review and rate SkyGems Academy podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Anchor.fm, Breaker, and various SkyGems Academy's podcast channels. That would mean the world to us, so thank you so much for your support. Visit our website at www.skygemsacademy.com to find out more about our distinguished speakers and about SkyGems Academy. We appreciate you and your continuous support. Thank you for tuning in to SkyGems Academy podcast. High five and peace out.